Do you still feel the heartbreak, the grief, the pain of loss, the hunger?
Welcome back to Breaking Stereotypes with myself, your host and presenter of tonight's show, Zainab Zaeem-Sattar. This is my second episode for 2021. Although I'm not giving it an exact title, I did like the idea of calling it Trailblazing Your Identity. So today's show is interactive. The studio line is 0116 4822 086. You can either text or WhatsApp 077 488 55055, or you can chat through Facebook on Ramadan Radio FM. I do encourage you all to interact with the show because we have got an exclusive guest for tonight's lineup. So before I move on to introduce our lovely guest and do some of our own interrogation with her, just a little bit of background information on the Leicestershire Police Force. And yes, it's not a theme about the career, but you will realize just in a little while as to why I'm giving a little bit of information as to Leicestershire Police. So the history of it is they've been around for more than 176 years. They started off with the establishment of just Leicester Borough Police in 1836. Separate forces came afterwards, and Leicestershire and Rutland both came separately a few years after 1836. But then in 1967, the two forces came together.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to Breaking Stereotypes with your host, Zainab Zaeem-Sattar. So before I introduce our next guest, who is a celebrity in her own right, and I am in awe of her attending with us tonight, and I'm truly, truly appreciative, I would like to say thank you to all of our listeners and all of our viewers for tuning in, and also to the team behind everything that goes on into producing the show. So, on to who our guest is. I would like everyone to welcome Zenith Irfan. Now, as I said, she is a celebrity in her own right. She is I don't even know how to introduce her. So actually, you know what? I'm going to hand it over to Zenith. Zenith, please, can you do us the honor of introducing yourself tonight?
Thank you so much, Zainab. Assalamu alaikum to anyone who is hearing me. My name is Zenith Irfan, and I'm known as Pakistan's motorcycle girl. And I'm just a crazy girl riding motorbikes, to be honest. I'm no celebrity. But yes, I have been riding motorcycles for the past 8-9 years now. And it changed my life, which is why I'm here to share my stories. So I'm just a simple girl, to be honest, no celebrity.
So humble, so humble. I hope everybody is listening to this, that even though I am saying she's a celebrity, and I know she is because I've been following her for some time now, she's very, very humble. Thank you very much, Zenith, for joining us.
Thank you.
I would like to delve a little bit more into your background before we move on to some of the questions that I have. Now, as you know, I'm also a motorbiker. I'm not a solo female motorbiker, that much is for sure, because I actually love going on bike rides with my family. So with my husband, sometimes my son joins in. My eldest son, who's 20, he rides as well, so he's got a 125cc. So we tend to go on some rides together, but the only solo journeys I've done is when I used to travel to my workplace, which was 52 miles from my house and 52 miles back. And then when my husband accidentally applied for a job in Spain and he was working out in Spain, I used to do my own rides there. But you're a completely different ball game, Zenith. You know, alhamdulillah, mashallah, you, like you said yourself, you are a female solo motorcyclist. You've even got your own tagline. Before we go into all of that, I want to go all the way back to when you were young, when you were a little child. How did you, or when did you first know that biking was what you wanted to get into?
That's actually a very good question. You know, how did I know? I actually was not born in Pakistan. Right now, I'm in Lahore. But I wasn't born here. I was born in UAE. So I was brought up in Sharjah. And that is where my maternal family is from. They're Pakistanis, but we migrated really long time ago. And since I was born there, I was raised up in a culture which was very diverse. I had friends from across the world who were studying with me. And then when the recession hit back in 2008, we had to shift back to Pakistan. Also because my mother at that time felt it's for the best of my brother and I's interest that we shift to Pakistan for good education. So we shifted back here, and it was like a culture shock for me because I was only 12. I was about to enter my 13th year, and I had no idea about the culture norms of Pakistan. And like I had no clue on how can I adjust in this culture, in the Pakistani culture. So when I shifted back here, I would often see these people would ride motorcycles, and I was very intrigued by it from a very young age. But I never thought that I would soon become someone who would start riding. And when I entered college, and then when I was about to enter my university, I was faced with this dilemma on whether I should take the university bus or not, whether I should go to university on my bus or not. And at that time, we were facing some financial difficulties because my father passed away when, I was very young. I was only 10 months of age. And at that time, my mother was pregnant with my brother Sultan. So, she raised us all up alone, and we were facing some financial difficulties. And it was during that period when there were 2 to 3 things that were brought forward to me. One being that my father's quest of his quest of wanting to live a wanderlust life, and his quest of wanting to live a life which was full of adventures and full of stories, and then also the financial thing. So during that period, I specifically remember that we were barely making ends meet, and my mother was like, we were like trying to figure out on how can we afford traveling, because it was actually very expensive back then, and it is still. But we had no services like Uber or Careem. All of these came on later on, just recently. And it was during that period that my uncle suggested that, you should actually buy a motorcycle. And he pitched in some money, and then we pitched in some money and bought a very small motorcycle, a Honda 70cc. It was a very small bike. And my mom encouraged, she motivated my brother to teach me how to ride, because she, was of this belief that, a woman should ride too, and she should be independent in terms of her commute. And during this period of when we were facing these practical issues, I also learned that my father wanted to take a trip across the world. I've always been a very curious person, and I still am. And I was so curious to know about my father. I was like, I really want to know who he is, what did he do, because I have no memory of him. And which is actually a good thing, because, I don't have a memory of my father, which is why I don't miss him as someone who would lose a father later on. But then there is still that space that sometimes I feel, space here, that I can feel that space in my life. In order to fill that space, I was told that, he wanted to travel the world on a bike, and he wanted to start his own band, and he wanted to do these crazy trips here and there, but he was never able to do that because he lived a very short life, but one that was very happy. And I was like, really, I mean, I looked at my father as an individual and thought to myself that, how we are running after things, after maybe a job, and we're working all day, and then, we have kids, and we're like, of course, fulfilling our marriage and financial obligations. But then what about your own heart? Not saying that those things are not good, but what about your own dreams? And I was like, he was not able to live that. And it did occur to me, but still, I hadn't thought of taking an overland trip or even across the country trip. I never thought of it. It was only after a few years later that some circumstances pushed me towards my first journey. So, but this is a small background that I just gave you. What happened in my childhood. Yeah.
Well, I will actually be asking you a few questions later on regarding, how you
Yeah.
got into all of that. But thank you very much for, a detailed background. And I can also understand it, it's not easy opening up about, your childhood and that. And your father sounds like an amazing man, Zenith. Alhamdulillah.
Yes, he was an amazing person. He was.
My condolences that he unfortunately did live a short life, but to him we belong and to him we return. And one of the things that I live by is that when you return back at such a short age, it is because he loves you the most. You know, that's
Yes.
one of the things that gives me comfort, because I've lost a few people that passed away at their young age, and that's one of the things that gives me comfort. But you following in his footsteps, absolutely amazing. And I want to just touch on a few things that you've said. I mean, your mother, wow, you know.
Yeah.
Hats off to all the single mothers out there. I've been a single mother. I know what it's like. It's not easy being a mother, a
Yeah.
father.
Yes, I agree.
You know, you have to play all the roles. It's definitely not easy. But then your mom was also living in that day and age where maybe society, culture was not as open as it probably is now. So for your mom and your uncle to give you that support, to say to you, actually, you should be independent, you should look after your own commute, here you go, here's money, go buy a bike, go learn and travel yourself. I mean, that in itself shows that she was quite ahead of her times and that she's given you that support. So, you know, that in itself is just absolutely fantastic. And it paves the way, it paves the way for younger generations as well to see that actually some of us can be ahead of our times as long as our intentions are right and we're doing everything within the purview of our religion, everything's allowed. But she also told you, well, she also told your brother to help you. So it was your brother who taught you. So just a few questions on that. Alhamdulillah, the bond between you and your brother must be absolutely fantastic then. You know, your brother teaching you, him seeing the fruits of his labor.
I agree, and I think you also saw one of my live sessions on
I did,
Facebook when
yes.
we were all bonding together. That's true because you know I feel I'm blessed in many ways that I was born in a family that was, you know, like I feel I'm privileged. I really feel I'm privileged, and that's because I was born in a family that did not clip my wings because of my gender. You know, my family, even my uncles and my cousins, they all support me. I'm often faced with this question that in Urdu कहते हैं ना कि हाँ हाँ सिर्फ तुम्हारी अम्मी करती होंगी, like maybe only your mother supporting you or maybe your brother supporting you, but in reality everyone around me supports me, and I feel that is the most luckiest thing. I'm so grateful to Allah that I was born in a family that allowed me to pursue my dreams and did not say no, ye nahi karo, tum ladki ho, you're a woman, you know, you're not supposed to do this or that. And specifically when it comes to my brother, I feel he's such a good example of, you know, how they say that behind every successful man there's a woman.
Yep.
But with me it's the opposite.
Oh, mashallah.
Behind every successful woman there's a man.
Mashallah.
And with me that man was my brother. So
That's, you know, that bond, alhamdulillah, I have to say I am very positively jealous about that bond. And I am going to say mashallah out loud and as many times as I can, because I don't want no nazar or anything on that. Because alhamdulillah, my family loves me. I know they do. They love me in their own way, and I love them as well. And my producer's doing this in the background, you know. He's going, the thing with mine is completely opposite to yours. Mine was pretty much, oh, ye nahi tum kar sakti. You know, we're a Gujarati family.
yeah.
So we and I come from a very secluded time. You know, I was born in the 80s. So girls did not wear jeans with scarves. They did not wear contact lenses. They did not go town with their friends on their own and, you know, things like that. So for me, it was very much, no, you can't do this. If you want to do it, you do it after marriage. Oh, your husband will let you do this and your husband
will allow you and all
you
that
know,
stuff.
and
Yes.
mine was that kind of upbringing. And alhamdulillah, I'm happy to say times have changed. And my former mother-in-law, you know, may she rest in peace, inshallah, and Allah Ta'ala give her the highest place in Jannat al-Firdaus. She gave me a lot of freedom. You know, she was very much like your mum, the way you've explained it. It was, I can do whatever I want, go wherever I want. There was no questions, you know. She treated me like a daughter and she gave me that freedom. And even though I started riding a motorbike after me and her son divorced, and I then met my husband who happened to also be a motorbiker, which was absolutely fantastic.
Wow, that's amazing.
So she carried on giving me her support. So, you know, people would talk and say, oh my gosh, she rides a motorbike. Oh my God, you know, your former this and your children's mother. And she'd always back me up. And she was like, yeah, so what? She's enjoying her life. What's wrong with that? And she, you know, blatantly go up to, but even my mother-in-law right now, you know, my mother-in-law, they're Pakistani, so they're from Karachi. My husband's from Karachi, but her mum's side, they're all like Banaras. And also my father-in-law, you know, Allah Ta'ala give him Jannat al-Firdaus. He was from India side as well, but the partition led him into Pakistan. My mother-in-law, alhamdulillah, she is very, very good in that sense as well. She gets worried when I ride my motorbike because
I feel we all mothers do get worried, and I
That's
feel you're
it.
so lucky that you have such a supportive mother-in-law. You know, like I
Support
feel
makes
you're lucky too.
absolutely support makes a huge difference, and which is why I want you to
Yes.
concentrate on your mum, because despite the fact that her and your family are giving you that support, we don't know what's happening in the background where she might actually be getting flack, as we say here in the UK, from other people. You know, other people might be saying things to her, saying, "Ye tum kya kar rahi ho? Tumhari ladki hai
Yeah,
ye,"
that
you know, things like
happens.
that. And parents
Yes.
support us, and children don't realize behind their back that actually parents might tell us off, but behind our backs, they're actually supporting us. You know, some parents do. So for your mum to go through all of that and give you all of that support, you know, just goes to show what a strong, independent woman she herself is. And that bond, alhamdulillah, you know, I pray that inshallah that bond remains and you keep continuing with that support. I wish I had that support. I'm getting that support now. And in a way, I'm glad I'm doing my biking
Yeah.
in the age I'm doing it, because I'm now in my late 30s. I'm enjoying it with my husband. I'm enjoying it with my son. So for us, it's like, oh, what do you want to do today? Should we go town? No, let's go on the bikes. You know, we'll go for a bike
Oh wow,
ride.
that's real. I
So
wish to live a life like that too, and I think I will.
yeah, so
I will
that's what it
understand.
is. So, you know, well, you have to find somebody who loves motorbikes. That's what you have to do.
Yes.
That's what you
Yes,
have
I
to do.
agree.
So moving on to, so we've discussed how you got into motorbiking and your father's dream. So your father's dream was to travel around the world and be adventurous.
Yeah.
I've been reading a lot about you because, like I said, I've been following you and following your journey. And for our listeners, I do just want to highlight here to our listeners and our viewers. Zenith actually has her own TV show on Pakistan TV called
Yes, I do.
Discovery Ride, if I'm correct.
Yes, yes, discovery.
Discovery, right? Brilliant. So we'll come on to that. But in terms of your father's dream, where did North Pakistan come into it? Because I know you've been traveling a lot of North Pakistan. So can you give me a bit more information on that?
Yes, actually, so before I even start answering this question, I need to take you on a small journey where I have to first explain to you how that transition happened from me realizing this was my father's dream to actually taking that trip.
Okay.
During that period, I was going through a lot of things in my life, both personal in terms of emotional challenges. And I was growing up. So I was like, I started riding when I was 16 years old, you know. So, and, you know, I was very young and I'm 26 at the moment, but I still feel so old right now. I feel so,
So
okay, बहुत
very
देखी है
young.
दुनिया में, like,
Very
I've
young.
seen so much of the world. So, you know, and when I was 16, I remember I was going through these series of people coming in my life and leaving. And you know, when you're 16, you don't understand a lot of things, how life is like. But I do know one thing is that both my brother and I are way ahead than our age. And that's only because we were born without a father figure on, you know, above us. So my mom actually brought us up like adults. She did not treat us like, you know, as just children. We would share everything with my mother, and we still do. And we're a nuclear family. It's only my mom and my brother, which is why, you know, I was able to understand the very bitter realities of life at a very young age. At age 8, I knew I have to be financially independent. I was only barely 7 or 8 years old because we were facing problems, and I knew that I need to be emotionally strong by the age of 10. So, you know, I do have that awareness. So, you know, when I was going through this period, I met a series of heartbreak, both in my personal life and losing friends and loved ones. And it was during that period when I had so much negative energy in me. Then I was like, kya kare banda? You know, like I don't understand what should I do with this energy within me. And I feel I was very intelligent back then because, you know, when you're young, you can make some very silly mistakes. But with me, since my mother encouraged me to write, she would be like, whatever you're feeling, just write it down. From a very young age, she asked me to do this activity before going to bed. I wrote about my feelings, I remember vividly. And I was like, at the end of the page, I was like, oh no, I need to take a bike trip. I got my answer. So that is all the negative energy. I need to transition that into my traveling. If my heart's broken, if I'm crying at night, something is wrong. And how can I fix it? Maybe I really need to take this trip. And I wanted to do it very quickly because my mom was like, matlab, even I was saying the same thing to my mother that I really want to take this trip quickly because I don't know how much time is left because of the fact that my father passed away at age 34. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to live, for how long will I live? And my education will continue, but I want to take this by the time I'm 20. And then I did take that trip when I was 20 years old. I gifted myself that trip, but I did it, for my own self, and also to try to find the answers to life and try to connect with Allah, because and to try to find my father's identity. There was a lot of things happening in that trip. And when I say to people that the trip was very spiritual, they often like, oh, ये तो आवारागर्द है, like आवारागर्द is like she's like all roaming around with boys and smoking
Yeah.
cigarettes and riding bikes, and what is so spiritual about that?
Yeah.
This is just an image that a person has when they think about a woman on a bike, but it's not like that. I don't smoke, and I most certainly don't roam around with boys as much. So it was a very spiritual. It was a life awakening trip, and little did I know that I would become famous from it. I had no clue that no one had done this before. It was only later on when I started writing about it, because like I said earlier, that I had this habit of writing down things. So then I was like, why shouldn't I open my own blog? And this was also my mother's idea, where she was like, open your page and write down your experiences when you're traveling. And I did that, and it became viral.
Wow.
So, that is why when I went to North, because North was something that has always been in everyone's bucket list, everyone wants to go to North. So I did consult some of my biking friends. I joined a community of bikers over here in Pakistan. I asked them questions, and you will be surprised with the reaction I got. I remember there's a very, very, he was actually a very popular motorcyclist, but now he isn't. And I went to him, and he used to do these trips with his family. And I was like, oh my God, I want to take this trip on my bike. And I was with my brother at that time, and I was just a pillion rider with a
Yes.
friend of mine, because I was trying to learn how to ride in long distances. So I was trying to understand what motorcycles are all about. And I remember him saying, oh, you can't do it. तुम तो नहीं कर सकती हो, तुम्हारा तो rape हो जाएगा. That's what he said. And that you will be raped. And I was so shocked, because I'm expecting a very supportive comment from a biker, and it was the total opposite. And I was like, what's happening here? Like, I was very discouraged. And I had no idea why that was happening. And it was only happening because, see, they were being challenged by a woman. They felt that challenge. The patriarchy hit them, this patriarchal society. So they felt that challenge. And I wasn't challenging them, honestly, Zainab. I just wanted to take this trip, really understand motorcycles. And also, I was like 19, I remember back then.
Do something
And I
passionate.
got these comments, but I remember when I got that comment, I was like, now, up to मैं करूँगी. Now I have to take the trip, Up to I'll prove myself that, I have to take this trip. So this is how I started this, whole journey of taking trips and all, towards North.
Okay. So I want to ask you about your first trip, but before we go on there, I do need to just remind the viewers that Zenith is based out in Pakistan, so she is over there. So her culture, her society is very different to us here in the UK. Now, you mentioned about you being discouraged by bikers. Alhamdulillah, one of the things I have to admit to is nobody that I've ever met in the biking community here in the UK has ever discouraged me from anything. If anything, it's been family members or friends who have discouraged me, and those family members, because they're worried, they're worried about my height. I am only 4'11". I am very short. And, bikes here, they're very, very high. And
Very tall, yes.
they're very high, and I shorten them, and I cut the seat out, and I put the front forks down, and I do everything, and I still drop the bike. I tiptoe, and I crush the bikes. I do all sorts. So I've had a couple of mishaps now, but also the other culture bit as well. कि तुम लड़के हो, तुम तो नहीं कर सकती हो. What will people say? All of that. Or तुम तो, you're a divorcee. तुम नहीं कर सकती. You can't live life, basically. That's what I used to get. So alhamdulillah, I'm very, very pleased that my husband rides a bike, because now what I do is, if anyone says anything, I just turn around and say, well, if you've got a problem, speak to my husband, because he doesn't say anything. So if anyone had an issue,
and he can understand that feeling of being on a motorcycle.
or if anybody needed to say something to me, it should be my mother-in-law. They don't say anything. In fact, my brother-in-laws, two of my brother-in-laws were bikers, and one of my sister-in-law wants to buy a quad bike. So we hopefully might get that. So alhamdulillah, very, encouraging and freedom type of family. But
Yes.
every biker I've met here in the UK, I've always lacked confidence when it came to my biking because of my height. And they were always the ones who said, someone's put this in your mind that you can't bike, but actually we've seen shorter people than you ride bigger bikes than you, so you can do it. Why can't you
Yes,
do it?
it's true,
So
actually.
exactly.
Yeah,
So
very true.
when I went to learn here in the UK, because I had to go to a professional company, they were all right with me. But when I kept dropping the bike, they said to me, "Oh, here's your gears, here's your brakes, A to B, go." And I was like, "Hold on, you're not even showing me how to turn,
Yeah.
because I don't drive a manual car.
How
I
to
only
balance it and how to, yeah,
exactly. I only
control it.
drive.
Yeah.
That's it. I only drive an automatic, so I don't understand the biting point. I don't understand when to change gears." And they said, "Yeah, okay, go." And then when I kept dropping it, I thought to myself, "No, no, no, no. I am not going to stop because of my height. I'm going to keep doing it." So you were fighting,
Yeah.
literally, your
Yes.
battles were with people. My battle was with myself because of my height restrictions. So there's a
Yeah.
huge, difference in the culture. But also with Pakistan as well, there is that scary thing, isn't there, where women, when they go out on their own, the men there. But that's one of the things I say is that's not the women's fault. Men should control themselves. That's what it comes
I
down
agree.
to. But that's a
Yes.
completely different, other story. But you alhamdulillah have been doing it, and you have been safe, and may you stay safe like this. But when you then decided, you were discouraged by these people and this person, and then you decided to do
Yeah.
your first trip, where did you do your first trip? So how far was it from your house? How did you plan it? What went through your mind?
So the first trip that I took was actually not solo. It was with, we were 6 people. It was an entire group of people. And what happened was basically one of the members who was listening to this comment being made in that event. I was actually attending a Jeep rally over here in Pakistan. It happens every spring, early spring in Cholistan Desert, which is for anyone who is living overseas. Cholistan Desert is actually situated south of Punjab. It borders India towards Rajasthan. So I'm just giving you a geographical,
Okay. Yeah.
visual outlook on where this desert is. So every spring, early March to late February, a rally happens there, which is organized by the government called Cholistan Jeep Rally. And it happens every year. Recently, it did happen because of the virus, but I attended the 2015 rally. And I remember when I was there, this comment was being made. So there was someone else. You know how you're standing with a group of people, and
Yeah.
then some people are just standing there listening. He was the one who was listening to all of these conversations being happening with me and other fellow riders, where I'm sharing this dream of my father. I'm like, yeah, maine karna hai, mujhe karna hai, ye karna hai. And then he messaged me later on after I came back to Lahore because I was in university at that time. And he was like, "So, I'm going to take a trip and I would want you to pack your bags and come along with me." And I'm like, "I have zero experience of riding on the highway. Number one. Number two, who the hell are you? Because I don't know who you are and what do you want?" You know,
Brilliant.
because the first thing in my mind is he wants something, something's wrong, underlying kuch aur cheez chahiye. Maybe he wants something. And I couldn't trust this person. And his name is Adnan Bhai, Adnan Hussain. He's my mentor. He was messaging me and I'm like, "Oh my God, who are you? I don't want to do this trip." Who they're like, "Okay, I want to do this trip, but I can't trust you." And then he came, he met my mom, and we developed that trust. And he was asking my brother and I to pack bags. And he was the one who actually introduced us to the world of motorcycle touring. He was the one who was telling us kya cheez lekar jani, kya nahi, what to pack, what not to pack, how you have supposed to tie your bag. He was demonstrating this
Yeah.
is how you tie your bags to the bike, And also I use a lot of YouTube's help. Back then there were very few videos, but there were some videos of European riders where they would, explain how they budget the trip, and I would just listen to them. And I remember even he pitched in the money for both my brother and I to take this trip because we were not working, we were just students. I barely took any money with me. And he only did it. And trust me, it's been more than 6 years now from my first trip because he believed in that dream. And it was later on I realized that sometimes Allah sends angels to us, in
Yeah.
form of humans. And he was that angel, you know. He never asked for any, he had no ulterior motive, never asked for anything, to be honest. And I was very shocked to see that these are wali of Allah. Wali is meaning, you know, like the friends of Allah. Ye
Yeah.
wali hote hain Allah ke.
Yeah.
That Allah sends to you because you have the belief in that thing. And it was that more, and it was after many years I realized that how it is so important to manifest things in your life, you know, how you have to have that belief in you. And it was actually literally, I'm telling you, Zainab, it was literally the universe pushing me towards this trip. I could feel that energy. I could feel all those angels and Allah asking me to do this trip. I don't know how to explain it now, you know, but it was as if everything is falling into place, you know,
Yeah.
everything's
Well,
smooth.
when your
Yeah,
time is right, you know your time is
yeah.
right. That's what it comes down to.
I could feel it's right. I'm taking the right decision. And I was so heartbroken. Like I was in depression, honestly. I was like, I just want to get away from this environment. And I went, so Adnan Bhai was the one who guided us, and he took us from GT Road. He asked us to ride through GT Road. And he also gave me his own bike, which was a 125cc motorcycle, which became so famous later on. You know, you can see on my old pictures, it's there. It was his motorcycle. He gave, so we bought a bike for my brother, that too on installments. And then I went, and my brother was there. There were a few other friends, and he guided us on how to ride through traffic up till the mountains. So eventually, by day 3, by 4, I was able to understand how to ride in the mountain, because we were very slow, but then we began to pick up pace. And it was his plan. He made it the entire itinerary, which was that you're supposed to go from Lahore to Islamabad. We stayed a night there. From Islamabad, we went to Naran. And he was the one who was pushing us, both my brother and I, you know, come on, let's go, let's go, let's go. And, you know, he was the one who was behind our motivation. And our stop was Khunjra Pass. So, but we wanted to do other areas too. So we went to Khunjra Pass, which is a border that's shared between China and Pakistan. It's a pass that they have made. It's around 13,000 feet high. We went there. We went to Sugar Valley. This is in Skardu. Skardu is the gateway of, you know, mountaineers. If anyone wants to climb K2, they will pass through Skardu.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, we went to Skardu. We went through all these areas across, and this was my first trip. So we tried to do everything we could in the first trip, and it was a month-long trip.
Wow.
Like it was at least 25 days long, and my first trip was so long. And it was as if I'm living on the road, you know, we were doing laundry, and, you know, we were just, the first experience was so intense, because I was faced with a lot of problems. Like, I don't even know how to manage my own health, hygienic health, you know. I had to face, you know, even when you're menstruating, when you're traveling, that was a huge thing for me. I had to face that. I had to face my laundry, you know, then I had to face fatigue on your body. There were a lot of challenges that I faced as a woman on the road. But trust me, I never faced any challenge like a guy threatening me in the mountains, then go back home.
Yeah.
All the challenges were very manageable, you know.
Basic,
Contrary to popular belief that people might be thinking, oh, she's on a bike, it's so dangerous. But it actually was other things like,
More like
I can't
internal
find a
controls.
bathroom and how to do laundry, you know. It was so
Wow.
funny. Yeah,
You know,
it was really funny.
when you were
Yeah.
explaining your journey and you were doing this, and you kind of, I mean, I don't know about the listeners and the viewers, but for me, I was kind of picturing you on your bike with your brother on the side of the road. I mean, I've never been to Pakistan, but I've been to India many, many times. And, you know, I know what the high-end rich side looks like and what the, you know, low-end poor side looks like, you know, where,
Yes.
where the roads are not made properly. And I've seen people do the actual laundry on the side, you know, with dirty water.
Yes,
And,
of
you
the
know,
river.
that's
Yeah, full
it, you
desi
know.
way, yeah.
Pure Desi. So when you and when you say Desi, my number plate is actually Desi. I've got DE57 here in the UK, ZEE. So I'm Desi Z, and my husband is Desi Sam, because I do class myself as Desi. We are Asians, we are Indians. That's in our
Yeah.
bloodline, and you know.
And there's nothing to be ashamed of.
Absolutely.
Nothing to really own up to it.
That's
you know,
it.
like,
You know,
yeah.
I wear it. I wear my heart on my sleeves, and I'm so proud of it. But when you were explaining that, and I'm thinking to myself, next time my family members say to me that, "Oh, you're going South Wales. Oh, you're going this," I'm going to just kind of remind them of you and throw them an article or two about you. You know, where you've traveled, because I've done a few trips on the bike. We've not done that. We've definitely not done any European trips. I haven't. My husband Samir has ridden in Spain because he shipped his motorbike over there, and so he was riding over there. But we've not actually done any European trips. We plan on doing them. We just haven't got around to them with work, life, children, and all of that. But the most I've traveled is 5 hours. So in a car, it's about 3.5 hours. On the bike, it took us about 5 hours, and it is tiring, Zenith. You know,
Yes,
it's
it
not
is.
like, I mean, in Pakistan and India, you have all those little cafes and things on the side where you could just stop up
Yeah,
and have the,
dhavas.
yeah,
Yeah, the
you know,
truck wala dhaba.
इधर तो
Truck
ऐसा
wala
कुछ नहीं
dhaba.
है, right? You know, forget about that here.
Really? I thought they are
No,
there.
here you have what they call services. So you literally have to take the exit. You have to come off the exit. फिर अंदर जाना पड़ता है. फिर गाड़ी park करनी पड़ती है. And then you have to get out and you have to go. And then you have to go inside the building. And, you know, all of that. It's not,
Oh, okay. So
it's not,
they are no like makeshift cafes on
oh,
the
no, no.
roadside.
You
Oh,
have
I
to
get
do
it.
quick pit stops. There are the odd one or two makeshift cafes on the road, not on the motorway. On like either end a motorway hote hai, and then you've got the smaller
Yeah.
roads, which is local roads. So on the local roads. So if we wanted to do a pit stop, as I call it,
Yeah.
you have to physically ride for at least 1 hour or half an hour continuous
Oh,
before you
wow.
can stop. Now,
That's
alhamdulillah,
fantastic.
I'm very used to riding, so my hands are very strong because I used to ride all the way to Bedford and back, which was 52 miles, so 1 hour and 10 minutes, and 1 hour 10 minutes back. But my husband, bless him, Samir, after 45 minutes, he's like, I want to stop. I want to stop. And I'll be pushing him. I'm like, come on, we could do 10 more miles. Come on, we could do 15 more minutes. And he's like, no, I want to stop. But at the end of that 5-hour journey, I'm so tired. You know, if it's cold here, because, you know, we live in the UK, it's not that hot sometimes.
Yeah.
You know,
Plus it's raining all the time.
well, all the time, yes. You know, the weather can change in seconds. You know, you can leave the house in 28-degree weather and come back when it's chucking it down in rain. You know, we get all 4 seasons in one day, and I've been soaked to my core. So, you know, but for you to travel such long journeys with your brother, even though you've got that bond, you know, sometimes these situations can really test your relationship. To go through,
It has happened many
yeah,
times.
to go through all of
I had so
that.
many arguments with my brother on the road.
But good arguments, you know, healthy arguments, debates. Let's call them debates rather than arguments. You know, they're healthy
Yes.
debates. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day. He's like my big brother. He's taken me under his wing, and he goes to me. Somebody asked what's one of the most annoying things about him, and I couldn't think of one because, you know, I see him as my big brother, and all we do is, you know, we have long conversations. And I said this to him. I said, oh yeah, me and him, we argue it out. And he turned around and he goes, no, we don't argue. We have healthy debates. And I'm like, oh, is that what we're calling it? So I've just remembered from there. You could call it a healthy debate. But I want to now ask you, I mean, I'm conscious of the time. We've got about 12 minutes left. In terms of your TV show, so you did your blog with the support of your mum. I'm surprised that, I mean, I don't know your mum. I've never met her. I want to meet her. I'm surprised she knows what a blog is. My mum still, to this day, calls my motorbike a scooty. Right? And I have to tell her, Mom, please don't call my bike a scooty. It's a motorbike.
It's a motorcycle, yes.
It's a motorcycle. And now I have a 1100cc. So
Oh, wow.
yeah.
I never rode 1100 actually.
Yeah,
Never
so
rode it.
I've gone up to a highest I've gone up to is I think 750.
Wow.
And then I went down to a 500 because of the height of the bike. And
Yes.
just last week, my 1100 got delivered. So I've got the Honda Rebel 1100, the CMX version that's come out.
Actually, big motorcycles are practical for you because of the terrain, but
That's
it's not so practical in Pakistan
Yeah.
because the terrain is so diverse. So
Exactly.
you would rather want to have a small bike which you can easily push when you're going uphill towards a valley or a mountain. So, you know,
that's the
what
other
it
thing.
should be
Sorry to
fun.
interrupt you there. That was one of the other things I was going to ask you. That you are on the road. Anything can happen on your motorbike. You know, punctures and anything like that. So in terms of pushing the bike, I mean, sometimes I'm very naughty. I'll find somewhere to park. I'll come off and I'll turn around and look at my husband and say, "Can you park my bike for me?" And I'll walk off. Because,
Yes.
you know, because he's there for me. When he's not there, I'll do it. But when he's there, you know, I'll make him do it. But you know, I mean, yes, you were with your brother, but for you who was doing this journey to find yourself, you would then have to do everything yourself. So that in itself,
Yes, that's true. And I actually have taken a lot of solo trips. So I have been where there was no one around me. And I actually posted a video also on my Instagram where my bike actually fell and I had no one around me to pick it up. It was so traumatic for me because I couldn't find anyone, and the petrol for my motorcycle, it was leaking because I think something happened with it, with that, I don't know what it's called, and it kind of like hit on a rock and it started leaking, and I was so scared to waste all that petrol off. So I couldn't find anyone. Then I found a shepherd and I called him. He was raiding his sheep up in the valley. It was so funny. And then he came up and he's like, so shocked to see a woman on a bike, firstly. He's trying to digest that, and then now he's helping me with my bike. So there have been occasions where I have been really alone and I don't know what to do. But like I said earlier, I can't explain this, but I have felt Allah's protection. You know how they say, read Ayatul Kursi before you go? Anyway, I have felt the power of Ayatul Kursi when I'm riding, because I have faced situations where I have felt a little bit vulnerable as a woman, and not knowing what to do next and where I will be sleeping next, because there's a lot of changes in the weather. Our hotels, and we can't book hotels on the go, it's not as easy as it looks like. It's not. You just have to go and book your hotel physically. But then, somehow something happens, there's, people do come and help. And that is one thing that I would want to point out, is that, a lot of people have this belief in Pakistan. I'm sure it might not be in the UK, that a woman is unsafe when she's traveling alone, or just traveling in general. That she's alone and she's vulnerable, which is not the case, because the people of the mountains, they're very simple people. They're not very cunning and they're not materialistic. They don't want anything from you. They just want happiness, and they find happiness in small things. As comparing them to the city people, I feel the people from the city are more, they're more selfish in nature, and they're more, more materialistic. So, and I felt that love from them. I've always felt people inviting me to their houses. They have barely anything to offer, because they don't have that much financial means to, but still they would offer you food. They will still ask you to stay over with them, and you would feel safe. So I do have those challenges, but honestly, it's all about passion, Zainab. I mean,
Absolutely.
if you're passionate about something, then you don't find these challenges. You're actually enjoying them. You're like, it's good that this is happening with me, because I get to learn from it.
Yeah,
That's what I would say.
you chalk it up to experience, and then Allah not
Yes.
garebe, if it happens again, you've been through it, you know what to do, you know
Yeah,
how you
now I
can
know,
survive.
yes.
But I mean, you talk about the people in the mountain. I mean, there's one lady, I don't know if you've heard of her, and I don't know if I'm saying her name correct. She's Rosie Gabrielle or
Yes,
something.
Rosie. She's a very good friend of mine.
Oh, is she? Oh, wow. Now, see,
I even attended her wedding. It happened like 3 months ago, I
Oh,
think.
did she get married? Oh, mashallah, congratulations to her. So, for our listeners, for the benefit of our listeners and viewers, now, Rosie was another lady that I came across on social media. And
Yes.
I think, was she American or something like that, where she traveled as a solo motorcyclist to Pakistan as well. And she fell in love with the people of the mountain. And,
Yes.
they took her in and they gave her such a warm welcome. And she was doing all these blogs about them. And I followed her up to a certain point, and then life, gets in the way. So I'm sure she's still on my Insta and stuff, but it's not something that I've managed to keep up with. But she said the same thing about the people of the mountain, and she took loads of pictures with so many people, and to see that contrast. I mean, you mentioned city life. It's a fast-paced life, isn't it? People don't have time for anybody. I'm guilty of that. So many times I don't have time for so many people, but I'll make time for my biking, because that is what, after our religion, after our faith, that's what gives us our peace. It's our passion. That's what keeps us going. Sometimes, you have a tough day, you come home and all you want to do is get on your bike and just not think. You
That
just
has
want to
happened
be.
with me, yes.
Oh, so many times, and I come home and there have been occasions where I've come home and I say to hubby, I said, "Come on, let's go," and he'd be like, "I'm not coming." I said, "Take my bike out," and now he has to take my bike out, because the way we have to park our bikes, his bike always blocks mine, and I can't move his because his is really big. His is so big that if I try to move it, I know I'm going to drop it. So he has to always move my bike. And sometimes he doesn't want to. So I'll end up, being a bit grumpy. Let's put it that way. I'll be grumpy because mujhe jana hai, or, he's too tired. So he now parks in a way where I should be able to get the bike out. But we'll have to see, because I've not had a chance to ride my 1100 yet. So I don't know how heavy it is. I don't know how the maneuvering, the position of it is going to be. But you said that you got into an accident. Now, I've been in one. I've been in a few, but I had a major one in 2017. I was bedridden for about 3-4 months. It was actually quite bad. So it was a very silly mistake I did. You know, I was riding along to work in the morning, and there was traffic, but it was standstill traffic, so nobody was moving. So I thought, मैं filter करती हूँ, because bikes were allowed, to filter.
Yeah, I got it.
So I started filtering, but my bike had a new exhaust the day before, and it was loud. So loud that I didn't recognize my own bike exhaust noise. Because I don't know about you, Zenith, but when I'm on my bike, I hear her talk to me. I know when to move from first to second gear to third gear and all of
Yes,
that.
that happens with all bikers.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
you can. Yes, you can.
You
You can
listen
hear
to the
bike
sound,
noise.
so you should know what your exhaust sounds like. But I had a new exhaust. But I also had something called heated grips, which I don't know if you know about it, but the grips that are on your bike, so where your handlebars are for your brake and your, for both your
Yes.
left and right, they're heated. So you press a button and they warm up to keep your hands warm. Now, because UK is cold, so
No, this comes in, I think, the fast and motorcycles. I know about the feature, yes.
okay, yeah. So I had that. Now the glue had actually snapped off my bike, and every time I revved the throttle, unbeknown
Yeah.
to me, my wires were slowly coming up, 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 until they were actually in my way, and I didn't realize, because I'm focusing on traveling. So when I'm riding, the traffic's coming. All of a sudden, the zip of my right hand jacket sleeve caught onto my handlebar, and I revved. And when I heard the noise, for that split second, I forgot I was on the motorbike, and I thought I was in a car or on the road. And instead of gearing in, clutching in to stop the bike
Yeah.
from going anywhere, so high revs, no clutch, I put my hand out to stop myself from flying. So I let go of the clutch, basically. And instead, what happened?
Oh, and it kind of jerked up, and
Yeah,
I
so
got
I
it.
jolted and I somersaulted into the sky. The bike flipped over with me. I fell on the floor, the bike on top of me, my leg twisted, and it was just
Oh
such
my God.
such a
Sounds
malarkey.
funny, but were you okay? I mean,
I
I hope you
was,
didn't get.
I laugh back at it now. I was, alhamdulillah, okay then. I did hurt my left leg, so even now sometimes it hurts in the cold, or I can't walk long distances. But I have a camera on the side, so when I replayed the camera back, I was about, if I'd gone just 1 foot to my right, there was a truck coming. So I would have gone smack into the
Wow.
truck. And then forget the
Wow.
truck, there was
I'm
another
so
biker
sorry.
in front of me. Had I knocked him over, he'd have gone into the truck. So he's the first biker in my life who never came to my rescue, who never came to my aid, because he was having a panic attack. He was so scared because he
Of
came so
course,
close.
yeah.
So it was a very lucky break, alhamdulillah. We were all very lucky. And like you said, sometimes angels look down on us. And I pray the
Yes,
Safani dua.
that's the power of Ayatul Kursi. That's what.
Exactly. It's the power of dua, and I prayed that. But I've had so many near misses. For me, I'm very much used to it. But the first thing that went through my head was, oh crap, I'm going to be late for work. And that's the first thing I thought, right? And I'm ringing my boss from my hands-free kit while I'm lying down on the floor, and people are asking me if I'm okay, and I'm trying to ring him to tell him I'm going to be late to work, because that's the only thing I could think about. But you were there out on your own, and you know what you have accomplished in such a young age, you should be very, very proud of yourself. And
Thank you so much.
I don't know if sometimes you can see the fruits of your labor, because it's very difficult to see when people are
To be
inspiring.
honest, I don't. I can't see.
Yeah.
I really can't see that.
When
I
people
really.
are inspiring, they can't see it. This was something that somebody very close to me told me. Because of the way I've lived my life and because of everything that I've achieved, it took me a very long time. When people say, oh, tumne ye kiya, I've not done anything. I've just put my head down and I've worked. But then people say to me, oh, because of you, I did this. Because of you, I did this. And I'm like, oh,
Yes,
wow,
so true.
So sometimes, I don't know how much of your fans reach out. I've seen your fans on Facebook, and alhamdulillah, you got loads. And what you've been through, Zenith, all I can say is please don't stop. Don't let anything come in your way. I am sure you've got loads of battles. There will be still so many to come. Unfortunately, we live in a world where it's never ending. But
Totally.
if you ever go through that moment in your life where you don't want to do it anymore, look back at this. Think of this radio show and think about what you were doing for me, where I could send your video to my family and say, well, you can't say anything to me. Look, there's a solo, a motorcyclist there. But
Yes.
I'm so in awe in terms of the support from your mom, your uncle, your brothers. I'm going to move on now before I start to break down in tears, because you are, an inspiration to me, especially at such a young age as well. In terms of your TV show, so you've mentioned about your blogs and everything that you did and your all of
Yeah.
that. How did you get your TV show? Because that, TV, Pakistan
I
show.
know,
Come
it's so
on.
weird. It's so weird. I mean, I think I've gone through a lot of challenges in life. I mean, I just recently, this year has been very tough on me. I lost a lot of people. And I'm someone who's very loving and very sensitive by nature, and I'm very loyal and caring. And I feel a lot of people take that to their advantage and exploit those things in you, you know. I faced two heartbreaks. So yes, I fall in love twice. It does happen, you know. When I was very young, I fell in love once, and then I got the heartbreak, and then again I tried to find the trust in love again, but then I was heartbroken again. So this year was very tough on me. And because it's the reason that I'm mentioning this a specific it's a very private information, but I'm not very private about it, is because a lot of people shy away from their personal struggles, and I don't understand why. I feel if a young girl can learn from me, she should, because um, I feel that one of the biggest mistakes I've done in my life was that I invested so much of my time and energy in others. Although it does not look like that, you know, when you guys see the show and you're like, oh my God, she's riding. But I feel that I still have not used myself to that ultimate potential of mine, you know. I can still open schools for girls, and I can teach girls how to ride, or maybe find their own dreams. It's not important for a woman to just ride, you know, just live her own life. And I mean, I wish I could have done all that. And now at age 26, after losing those friends and those the men that I loved, now I feel that, you know, it sounds really wrong the way I say it, but it sounds really weird. But, you know, I really did love some people in my life with my full loyal, you know, potential. And I was faced with betrayal, and I was faced with this identity crisis. And I know that's why I'm mentioning it, because there were those times when someone was lying to me, or, you know, betraying me, that I was faced with that identity crisis, you know, like, is it because I'm facing this? Is it because I'm riding? Is it because I'm dark skinned, or is it because, you know, is it because I'm not pretty enough, or maybe I don't apply much
You
filters, or
doubt
don't wear much
yourself. That's what
makeup?
it is. You doubt
Yes,
yourself.
you know, it did occur to me, because, you know, I have to admit, because when you're in love with someone, you face that person's validation, and that when that person leaves you for someone else, you are faced with that question: is it because, you know, I'm riding bikes and I'm a little bit tomboyish, or, you know, you ask. And it was during those moments when my mother, I speak to my mother very openly about this, and my mother was like, it's actually the opposite. It's because so many of your friends, and, you know, your toxic friends that you had in your life, and the people, they could not accept you, in it. You intimidated them. They felt it was a huge challenge. And that's something that I learned, you know. And I remember whenever I went through a heartbreak, and the first thing that I do is that I really start working more hard on myself, because that's the best way to heal. And it is during that process of self healing that I get these shows. It's so weird, you know. I manifest these things just because I'm loving myself, and I still have doubts, you know, like, because I was recently betrayed, I have still this doubt that, okay, maybe there's something wrong with me and I'm not pretty enough, or maybe it's because, you know, like, you know, like, I'm a media personality. Should I stop this? You know, like, but then the only thing that does not make me stop is when I'm riding out in the valleys, in the mountains, and I see young girls look at me. You know, I've spoken about this so many times, and, you know, I write about this too. You know, they have this
Look in their
glistening
face.
eyes, and they're like, oh my God, she's a woman on a bike. And it's such a
It's their,
silent message.
it's their look
You
in
know,
their
like I cannot
face.
explain it.
Yes.
You know, they're just so intrigued and they're like so in awe of just watching a
Absolutely.
woman on a bike.
Yeah.
And that is where, like, no, I cannot stop. I cannot stop. I can't stop this. Like, I cannot stop and give up on because of this. And I'm so happy that Allah Ta'ala made me go through those challenges, because I would not have been the Zenith I am right now. I wouldn't have done those trips. I wouldn't have worked hard. And because I worked so hard on my personal development, and I still am in that journey, and because I told the people of Pakistan the stories of Pakistan that were not told, you know, in an organic manner before, a lot of companies flooded in and they wanted to sponsor my trips, and they were like, we want you. So, you know, Alhamdulillah, you know, Allah ka shukar hai, I did not need to go, you know, out there and tell people, hire me. It was the opposite. They came to me and they said that we need you. Only because they wanted to work with Zenith Irfan, the brand, you know, Zenith Irfan, the woman that rides motorcycles. And that's how my career also started, you know, everything fell into place.
Yeah.
Even all the azmaishin, you know, all the examinations of life, all of this is Allah's plan, you know, the very big plan of Allah for me. I mean, that's how I map it. So, you know, that's how I got offered the show. I didn't even need to do any auditions. They were like, just come in and start doing the show. And I was just like, wow, I got my own travel show. So, you know, so I just wanted to talk about this because the key message that I want to give at the end of this answer is just like, when you really start working on yourself and you know that you are enough and that you are worth it, that you should love yourself the way you love others. Love yourself first the way you love others. That's when Allah will give you things, you know, because Allah will get things, you know, love yourself first. I mean, so yeah, that's why I want to show.
Everything that you've said, I don't know if you actually know, before I say what my next point is, we've actually extended the time. This is the second time we've extended the time for the show.
I'm so sorry.
No, please do not apologize. I have enjoyed listening to you, and I hope my listeners have enjoyed it as well. But I think the first time we extended it by another 10 minutes, and now we've done it again because you know what?
Oh, I'm so sorry.
It's been amazing, and we actually now have 13 minutes, so we've got some time, which is fantastic. But what I wanted to say, everything that you said about the trials and tribulations, and yes, okay, you've mentioned something, and we are on the radio, and we, you know, here in the UK there are a lot of Muslim followers of the radio, and I might get some slack from my producers for some of the content of tonight's show. But what I do need to make sure that my listeners are aware of, this is life, this is reality.
Yes.
Every female goes through it. Every male goes through it. We should not have to hide behind it. Yes, okay, there are some cultural barriers, there's some Islamic barriers, you know, but this is life. And I mean, you've mentioned what your relationship is like with your mother. I'm hoping that I'm like that with my children. My children tell me everything. I know everything about my kids. I know all their friends. You know, they come over, they chill with me, I chill with them, we go out. I know everything because they're going to do it anyway. They're going to do it without me knowing.
Yes.
I would rather know and keep them safe than not know, and then other people find out, and then other people tell me and they say, "Oh, तुमको पता है Zainab का लड़का ये कर रहा है, ये कर रहा है, वो कर रहा है, यहाँ जा रहा है." You know, my eldest son.
Actually, I'm so sorry I have to cut you. That's actually because a lot of people associate falling in love with any type of physical relationship.
Absolutely.
And that is not true. In my case, that wasn't true. And I do believe in falling in love with someone without having that physical relationship.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
very specific kind of, because you fall in love with people, whether it be your friends, that, you know, I love my family. So, and I think that's because of how the generation that we live in, you know, we often subjected to that, oh, because someone's in a relationship, that means there's some sort of physical benefit, but that was not in my case. And that's where I learned there's so many different perceptions of love, you know. That's why people like don't talk about it so openly, you know.
Well,
that's
the thing is, I think people tend to forget that Islam is very big on no forcing. Islam says we're not allowed to be forced into marriages. We, the female and the male, have to be happy. But look at Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha, she saw him, she heard about his truthfulness, his honesty, and she wanted to marry him. Now, she did that without any, without taking any different
Exactly.
step. She sent the proposal. How can she do that, if she didn't know who he
Yeah,
was, if she
so
didn't come
true,
into
so
contact?
true.
And she sent the proposal in a decent way, in a good way. And that is
Yeah.
something, that's sunnat. It's for us to live by. She was a divorcee. I'm a divorcee. People think it's wrong for my husband to have married me. I shouldn't have remarried, but it's sunnat. You want to live the
It
sunnah way,
is,
but
and we
when
should
people...
always cite them this example, Zainab. We should always ask them,
Absolutely. So from
Yeah.
what you've said, I mean, you went through so much heartbreak, and alhamdulillah, you got your career out of it. It's absolutely fantastic. And, like I said, I mean, what you mentioned about giving up and seeing the look on other people's faces, but it's not
Yes,
just about
yeah.
it's not just about the young girls or adult girls. It's also about the men out there. And what I really want to say to our listeners as well is, a lot of my shows right now have had a lot of women coming on, because women, for me, seem to be doing a lot of the breaking stereotype situations. And that in
True.
itself is a stereotype. I still cannot find a male out there who has done something that breaks that stereotype. So, any of my listeners know anybody, please do reach out, let me know. A bit of a plug there. But women are the one, because they are the ones who constantly have to fight the battles. They are the ones who society says no to. They are the ones who are caged, should I say. Or ye tum nahi kar sakti, nahi kar sakti. But why not? Islam doesn't say that. Women are allowed to be educated. One of the very first universities, by one of I unfortunately cannot remember the name, but it was one of our ladies in Islam, one of our very prominent ladies in Islam, who created or opened the very first university ever,
Yeah.
such a long time ago. So if in Islam education was not allowed, then why was it allowed back in those days?
True.
It
Very
is
true.
society, and people confuse society with religious beliefs. And I've said this so many times, time and time again, in all
Yeah.
of my shows. The two are different, and do not get them confused. Now, yes, okay, certain things you shouldn't do, certain things that you should do, but like,
Yes, this is something very important. Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, you will not know this, but my listeners should know this by now. Whenever me and my husband ride, and whenever we stop over somewhere local, I get a number of looks. And my husband calls me a show off. And yes, I do show off. I show off because I am a Muslim female motorbiker. I am only 4'11". I am 38 years old.
agree.
And I am a mother of 4. So what? But what they tend to do with me is they ask me, ये तुम्हारा husband है? Haya, तुम्हारा husband ने मना नहीं किया? अरे यार, वो मेरे
Yeah, I
साथ ही तो
understand.
है.
Yes.
He's with me. If he was going to say no to me, then he wouldn't be with me. And yes, he's my husband. And no, no permission. I mean, what's going on? I get those kind of looks. But for me, I know exactly what you are saying, that when you're on the motorbike and you see the look on
Yeah.
other people's faces, I get that here. Here, unfortunately, when you geared up top to bottom, sometimes people can't tell that you're a female.
You cannot identify if it's a female or a male.
Yeah.
It happens with me too.
That's
Yes.
it. But when I put my visor up,
Yeah.
you can see the eyes, and then I've got my nose ring, so people can kind of identify my nose ring, or my hair's
Yeah.
at the back. I get that. But one of the things I absolutely hate, the only thing I hate about biking, other than gearing up and gearing off and all of that, because that takes age, is that when
Yes.
I'm riding on my own, and people can obviously tell that I'm a female on a bike, even though I'm modestly dressed. You can tell by anybody's shape and size, right? That this is
Yes.
a male or female. Whether I was wearing an abaya or not, whether I wear a jabba or not, you know if I'm a female or not. What they do is they come right at the back of me to intimidate me.
That happens in the city.
Oh,
This
I
happens a
hate
lot
it.
over here. Yes, I
Yeah,
agree
and
with
they
you.
come right at the back. But when you're with people, when you're with your biker friends, right, they don't. They're very far. So when I'm on my own and they do that, even though I've got my helmet on and they probably can't see my eyes, I tilt my head ever so gently, and I really give them a deep, dirty
That
look.
stare, like, don't-
the stare,
don't mess
and
with
I
me.
rev,
Yeah.
and I rev my bike
Yeah.
so much, and I'm warning them basically that stay away, otherwise you will get it from me, because it's so unfair. And then they
Yes.
kind of back off. Then slowly they inch away,
Yeah,
or they
totally
don't move
understand.
forward. But we as females should not have to feel like that. They should not make us feel insecure.
True.
The
The road is equal for everyone. I mean,
absolutely, we have every right to be on a motorbike. I
True,
don't
yeah.
see why not. But speaking with you, Zenith, the main reason why I wanted you on the show wasn't to talk about women should motorbike, or we do need more Muslim female bikers, we need more female bikers.
True, we
That's
do.
one thing about UK. There's no shortage of women bikers, absolutely not. But I'm yet to come across another Muslim female biker. There was one up north, the town I'm from, which is Bolton, but she always rode a 125 back in the day, Zenith, when girls weren't even allowed to look up when they used to walk the streets,
Oh,
right?
that's very
So
interesting. Very, very interesting.
she was the black sheep, just like me, but she was breaking all the stereotypes. But she's now, moved up in her age, so she hung up the keys a very, very long time ago. But I'm still yet to come across someone. We do need more Muslim female bikers, that's for sure. But what
True.
my main reason for bringing you on this show was so that people can hear your story, people can see the other side of our Islam, which is actually there are families out there who are very supportive of their females in the family. They are,
True. Very,
you
very
know,
true. Very true. Yeah.
and that's something that we lack. We lack that encouragement. My daughter, Zenith, she's 12 years old. And,
Okay, mashallah.
her birth father wants her to become a doctor. And she keeps complaining, oh, we've already got one doctor in the family and we're going to get another doctor. And my big brother's going to be a doctor. Why do I have to be a doctor? So I've been telling her that I'm not going to force you to be something, but my dream is for you to become a pilot. Not for me. It's up to you whether you become a commercial flight pilot or whatever. But I want you to have the private pilot license so that on the weekend, if you feel like hiring a plane, jumping on a plane
Yes.
and going Europe or
That's
wherever
ideal.
with your friends, go for it. If I want to go somewhere, if I want to go have lunch in France one afternoon or go shopping in Spain, I could turn around and say, come on, Mahadia, hire me a plane. Let's us go, And it's my intention to ride a plane as well. I've done the biking now. Inshallah, when I save some money, I want to get my private pilot license. But she kept saying to me for a good year and a half, Mom, I don't want to be a pilot. Mom, why pilot? Why pilot? Why pilot? Things like that. My producer's just written, put me on the list. Absolutely, Akil, you're going to be one of our passengers with us going shopping and lunching. But, I said to her, Bita, I'm not trying to force my dream on you. I'm forcing my freedom on you. I don't
Yeah.
want you to ever go through what I went through in terms of what you can and you cannot do. As long as it's within the remits of Islam and the law of the country that you live in,
True.
then I want you to have wings. I want you to fly. And I don't want you to rely on any man. And that's what it comes down to. I don't care how nice he is. I don't care how gentle he is. And alhamdulillah, I don't know what good I've done in my life to deserve the family that I've now got. Alhamdulillah, my husband, Samir, his family, absolutely amazing. Yeah, okay, every family has its ups and downs. Who doesn't?
That's okay. I think that's just part of
Exactly,
being family.
that's
Yeah.
family. But we go on family trips, and we're going away all together this weekend. Things like that. But I'm very lucky, and I say that to her. But I'm still independent, Zenith. I'm still
Yeah.
independent, and my husband, bless him,
That is
bichara,
so important. I mean,
absolutely.
for
Even
women to
yesterday,
be independent.
that's it. Even yesterday, he turned around and said to one of our friends, "Ko unko jo karna hai, wo to karne wali hai. Mera to koi bas hi nahi hai." I can't say anything. They all know when I make up my mind on something, as long as I'm not going against the rules of my faith and the laws of this country, I will do it.
So true, man. That is, and I think I just want to add on, it is so important for a person to have some core values. I know time's running short, so I'll just make it short. Because some of my core values, I have, sticked with them for so long now. Like, I mean, for me, the core values would be something like, not sleeping before marriage and not having drinks and not being around bad company and asking Allah to guide me to the straight path. And, I have been judged as a Muslim woman because they're like, oh, if she's not covering, which I do, Allah Ta'ala give me hidayat to start covering also. But then they're like judging me, or maybe she's like, how I said that she's smoking cigarettes and sleeping around. So I mean, you cannot judge a book by its cover. And if you're really strong with your core values as a woman specifically, as a woman in this society where there's a lot of fitna and distraction from media, you will find Allah Ta'ala succeed, creating that path to success for you. And these core values were instilled by my grandmother and my mother, and I've still stuck to them. So I'm so proud of myself Like, I'm so lucky. I know as my thi, I faced examinations of the heart and the mind, but Alhamdulillah, I'm so happy,
Yeah.
Zainab. I'm
You can
very
enjoy life.
happy for my life.
You
Allah ka
can,
shukr, Alhamdulillah,
I
you
mean,
know.
Suma, I mean, you know, you can enjoy life and still be pure,
Yes.
right? Just because you
Yeah.
enjoy life doesn't mean you're unpure. It's as simple as that. There's no such thing.
Yes.
The two do not
Yes.
coincide with one another, and the two they correlate. You can, you know, have
Yes.
fun
So
and you
true.
know all of that. But we have about 50 seconds left, so I want to thank you, Zenith, for coming on to the show. Alhamdulillah, I've really enjoyed myself, and I could carry on having
I'm really happy,
conversations
Zainab.
with you. I'm sure my producer wouldn't mind, but it would be unfair. But I do want to say Jazakallah so much. Please give my salams to all your family and
Thank you so
continue
much,
doing what
Zainab.
you do. I'm going to continue watching all your Facebook and YouTube videos that you do. But also to all our listeners, do not let anything get in your way. Remember that you can be who you want to be as long as it's within our religion and or within your religion and within the laws of your country, wherever you are based. But do follow Zenith Irfan if you get a moment. Do look at her Discovery Ride channel, some fantastic scenes.